Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface back on the beta for Warlords of Draenor. Now then, I'm really excited today because they've put on a brand new dungeon to be tested on the servers, and it's called Grimrail Depot, and it's fast becoming my favourite dungeon for a long time, especially the last 2/3 of it, which we'll get to very shortly, and I'll explain why I'm going to gush all over it. But first things first, we do have a pretty cool first boss fight, which is, by the way, a mouthful to get out, because it's called Railmaster Rocket Spark and Borka the Brute, which is one of the longest, I think, titles for a boss fight I've seen in a long time. Now, this is a 2-boss encounter, but you've got to spread your damage, making sure that you're doing equal amounts to both the Railmaster and also Borka. But range DPS, you should primarily focus on Railmaster Rocket Spark. The reason why is because every so often, like he's just done now, he will fly to the top of some crates and become non-attackable. So you have to do as much damage as you can while he's down on the ground, and he does whiz around on his rocket pack, so it makes it very difficult for melees to keep hold of him. So range, he's really your kind of guy to look after. Now, during the course of the fight, he'll launch some missiles. You can tell where they're going to land because you see a big red zone at your feet. Move out of them pretty pronto. And then, when he's at the top of these crates, he'll do a missile barrage, which will hit you for 8k damage every 2 seconds for 20 seconds, and that's for 2 targets. So there's lots of damage coming in. Now, there is a way to prevent this huge amount of damage from coming in. You see, Borka has something called Mad Dash, where he'll target somebody and charge all the way through to try and get to them. What you need to do is line yourself up so you are between Borka and the Railmaster. So when he does his Mad Dash, simply dodge out of the way. You want to dodge out of the way because he will hit anything in his path for about 108k damage. So everybody get out of his way, and then he'll slam into Railmaster Rocket Spark and interrupt his missile barrage. It's very coyly done, which is really cool indeed. Now, the reason why I said you have to spread equal amounts of damage is because if one dies before the other, then they get a boost. So if Borka dies, then the Railmaster will do a new plan. He'll go, I'm going to plan B, where he'll fire off his missiles every 5.2 seconds, as well as locking onto targets, which means they take 10% more damage until that's interrupted. And if the Railmaster dies before Borka, then Borka will go apeshit and increase his damage and his attack speed by 50% for the duration of the fight. So yeah, you don't really want to let him go because he does hit pretty heftily hard at the moment. It's an awesome fight. You do have to be tuned in to make sure that you get through this without any complications. Healing's got to be tight. The tank's got to make sure that he positions Borka as best possible, so when he does his Mad Dash, he's going to run straight into the Railmaster. And all in all, it's just bloody cool. It really is. So, top-notch Blizz. Really excellent first encounter. And did you notice I actually got myself a bit of loot? I don't know how, because I didn't have to roll for it. It just gave me a belt because I looted the boss. Meh, whatever. Anywho, we then have to go through a gauntlet of trash who are lobbing exploding bombs at us as we go further and further up. And then we get to the niche point of what this dungeon is all about for me and why I liked it so much. And it kind of hits a few nostalgia buttons. That's one, I'd say, the primary reason anyway. We get to a point where we embark on the train. Now, as soon as I got on this train, I just got flashbacks to fighting in Final Fantasy VII. And I also got flashbacks to the train journeys that I used to do on Final Fantasy VIII. And those are 2 of my favourite games of all time. So just that element of it really appealed to me, really spoke to me. And it just ticked all the boxes. I felt as if I was playing Final Fantasy 7 and 8. It's just awesome. But that takes us on to the second boss, and this is quite a complicated boss. And if I just went into mechanic after mechanic after mechanic after mechanic, to be perfectly honest with you, you could just get yourself lost. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to give the idiot's guide to this fight, because that way it's just so more simple. Now, the name of the boss is Nitrogg Thunder Tower, which kind of rolls off the tongue. And this is what you need to do. Once you've smacked him around for a bit, he will smash some barrels and knock off half of this bloody carriage on the train. So you can now see everything that's going on, that we are actually fighting in the train with everything going on around us, with the environment whizzing past, and it looks uber cool. He will then get on the cannon, which you can see at the end there, which I personally am attacking. And then during the course of the fight, 3 different types of ads will come in. You've got engineers, you've got grenaders, or grenadiers, whatever they want to call themselves, and you've just got some regular mobs. Now, this is how it goes down. When you kill the engineers and the grenadiers, loot them. That's what you need. If you loot an engineer, you might find a mortar shell. If you do find a mortar shell, then go to the cannons that are scattered around the sides, and then use those cannons to fire a mortar shell at the boss's cannon to do max damage. And then if you kill a grenadier and you loot the grenadier, then they might have some grenades. And then you use the grenades to either blow up the ads, because they come in quite hefty numbers, or again, you can use them to chuck at the boss's cannon, which just looks amazing when it fires, doesn't it? I mean, that's just absolutely awesome. Now, during the course of the fight, while this is all going on, he will fixate, like he's done on me, and start to do a barrage. What you need to do is line of sight it. You can go behind any pillar that's there. Just line of sight it. If you don't, you'll take some pretty hefty damage, and it will silence you every time it hits you. So you won't even be able to cast. So there's no point whatsoever in even bothering. And then it's a matter of rinsing and repeating. So there are, lots of different kind of things going on all at once, but that is the main crux of the fight. You get those mechanics down, and then you've got this fight absolutely in the bag. Now, what I'm making sure that I do throughout the course of the fight, this is my first time here, so rightly or wrongly, and the boss does have 7.3 million health, but every time that you fire one of the mortars from the cannons around the side, it will knock a million health off that assault cannon. So it's absolutely vital that you do loot those engineers, get to the cannons at the side, use the mortar shells to fire at the boss's cannon. And then once his cannon is destroyed, the boss will come out and play again, and you can just smack him down like you were doing before. So I don't know whether or not I should have really turned my DPS onto the ads, and then just looted and looted and looted and looted and looted. That kind of sounds as if it was the best thing for me to do, but I just decided, for whatever reason, I don't know, first time here, like I said, to just keep as much DPS going as possible on the cannon, which is now kaput. So we get rid of the remaining few ads, and they do burn down really quickly, and then the boss has got 1.5 million health left, which for us, at least, goes down pretty toot sweet. Now, in case people are wondering, these are pre-made characters. The vast majority of us are on pre-made characters, and our item level has been scaled to level 600. So it's not wonderful. It's as basic's gonna get, to be perfectly honest. So if you're concerned that there's not huge amounts of damage coming in, don't be. Because the likelihood is, when you're level 100, you're going to be doing a lot more damage than we're doing here. What Blizzard like to do when they go through the testing procedure with stuff like raiding and dungeons is they have this lovely habit of scaling people to the lowest of the low, and that way they can retrieve the data from those fights and tune it accordingly to how they want. But my god, that fight was just simply epic. Absolutely loved it. We then got some pretty tricky trash to deal with here. So use your CCs, use your interrupts, use whatever abilities you can get at your disposal to stop them, and be very careful not to pull them in too high numbers, because if you do, the likelihood is they will overwhelm you and you will wipe. We actually ended up having to run back in a couple of times here, which takes us to our third and final encounter, which is Skylord Tovosh. I know, what again? Just call him Derek or Sue or Billy. It's just so much easier for me, but there you go. Right, now this is, I don't want to say the most disappointing encounter of the fight, of the dungeon, because the first two have been so strong, but I feel it's the easiest of the three, ironically enough. I still loved it because, again, you can see the environment whizzing past as we're going through on the train, and that in itself just got my juices flowing still. I don't think it's something we've ever experienced on WoW before when it comes to a dungeon. Yeah, we had Deathwing Spine, but oh god, we don't want to talk about Deathwing Spine. And there was the concern with the angles that this could turn into another Deathwing Spine, but fortunately it doesn't. But this final boss only has a few mechanics. In actual fact, I think there's only 4 mechanics in the whole of the fight. Now, first of all, she'll fire a freezing trap, which will do moderate to low damage, but it will root you to the spot for 6 seconds, and that route is quite important because you need to keep on the move for this fight. She'll do a spinning spear, which will do moderate damage, decent damage to you, and it'll knock you on your ass for a couple of seconds. You'll then get a thunderous breath from her Sky Lord, whatever, that's Sky Reaver? I can't remember what they're called. Two-headed thing. That'll come over every so often and breathe down on everyone. So just make sure you move out the way if you can see where it's coming in from. And then finally, we have the diffused energy, which is these pools of lightning that are on the floor. Now, I don't have to... I really shouldn't have to say this, but don't stand in them. Really, do not stand in them. They will tick for pretty decent damage. Now, when the fight started, as you can see, these diffused energies came and they went with pretty decent ease. But as the fight got on, they seemed to stick around for longer and longer and longer, to the point where we were nearly running out of room to position the boss. So this may, it may not, but it may be a DPS race for some people. So just make sure you focus as much damage as you can on the boss. Make sure that you do as much DPS on the move as possible if you can. And just make everyone's life easy and get out of the way of all the crap. But you can see that she actually used her snare on my pet. So pets can be affected by the snares. It's not necessarily just the players. But she burns down relatively easily. But you can see now the diffused energy is just starting to fill up and fill up. And the tank moves the boss into a nice area. And then I think this whole area here then gets filled. So it could be the lower her health, the more as diffused energy just goes everywhere. But it was the weakest of the 3 encounters, but I still really enjoyed it. I still really enjoyed the whole dungeon. I just thought it was freaking amazing. I think there's maybe going to be a little cutscene there so we can see the smash of the train and whatnot, but Blizz, I'm going to give you a 10 out of 10. I'm going to give you a 10 out of 10 for that because it was so much fun and I just adored it. And it also gave me that massive nostalgia feel with Final Fantasy VII, particularly, and also Final Fantasy VIII with the train journeys as well. But let me know what you think, folks, in the comments down below. And I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, then please give it a thumbs up. And also subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and twitch.tv/HeelvsBabyface for live Warlords of Draenor streaming. And I shall be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care, everybody. Bye-bye.